hello, I'm Chris. I'm the second keynote for today, and in between you and the first talks that you're really going for. Interesting to see a day starting this full in a room when there was drinks yesterday, so thanks for that. That's quite impressive. I haven't been at ConFoo in a while, so it's been like 5-year break for me, so it's good fun to be back here, and I came from New York, so it's much easier to get around here. I like that. Today I want to talk to you about progressive web and its challenges, its new challenges. I work for Microsoft on the Edge team and also on the Visual Studio Code team and the JavaScript engine, and I came from Mozilla, where I used to work on Firefox OS and where I also used to work on general interoperability between browsers, and that's a big thing for all the browser makers out there. So today, instead of talking to you about progressive web apps and showing you, here is in 5 minutes how you can build a progressive web app if you download my piece of software, I'd rather talk about what progressive web nowadays means and what progressive web apps mean to our market and why it is important for all of us to consider what's going on there. I'm going to give another talk today about machine learning as well, which is another topic that I'm very excited about us using in our day-to-day systems. But this is one of the most important things that I think the web needs right now to survive in an environment where things become much more closed and much more controlled by different parties that we don't want to control things. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have been hearing about progressive web apps, and there is a big hype about it. And sorry if that was offensive to people who live under a rock, I don't know what that might be. But progressive web apps is the cool new thing, and everybody jumps on that one. Every 5 years in our market, and I've been doing this for 20 years, something new comes around that everybody needs to be, like was DHTML, then it was Ajax, then it's like, now it's virtual DOMs, and now it's progressive web apps. And all of these things are great ideas, but we actually hype them far too fast and turn them into something that people either don't understand or people try to sell products with that are not related to the thing at all, but put progressive web apps on that. That's also a tip when you start writing books. The editor will always want you to put every single cool word of the month in the title. That's why my book that I said that I wanted to call No Bullshit JavaScript was actually called Beginning DOM Scripting with Ajax and JavaScript or something like that, because they put every word in it. So the hype is strong about these things, but I think it's important to understand what progressive web apps nowadays mean and what they don't mean. Now, something that is progressive to me is most of all something that's future-facing. It's looking into solving upcoming problems. And our upcoming problems right now is that the next users of our products are not going to be us. They're going to be on a mobile device in a country that is badly connected. They're going to be on a mobile device that might be limited because governments like to shut down things at the moment. I live in England. I just came over with my 2 British SIM cards, feeling very smug because one of them has a worldwide data traffic. Of course, in Canada, it doesn't have data traffic. So I pay £6 per megabyte, which, seeing that the average website is 2.2 megabyte, that would mean it's the same as getting a ticket to see Logan in the cinema. And I'd rather do that than look at some website that is 15K of content and 2.2 meg of ads and trackers and stuff I really didn't want to see. So progressive also means that it's something that's not set in stone. It improves over time. It's not a technology set that like, this is the way to do it and it will not be there. So when somebody tells you right now, a progressive web app is this, they might be right for their environment, for their implementation, but there are lots of nuances on that. Anything that is not set in stone, that becomes better over time, can be a progressive web app. There are certain things that every progressive web app needs to have, but think about them as a mixture of what we used to do on the web and what we do in native technologies and native applications. It's also not relying on an environment. So if somebody says like, yeah, cool, we got a PWA, but you need to download browser so-and-so, they've done nothing good. They've done the same things that Microsoft did with Internet Explorer 6 or Internet Explorer 5, or lots of implementers did back then, because that was the coolest browser on the planet and the only one to use. And it should be really die in a fire. This browser is not there anymore, and we shouldn't have to support it anymore, but people relied on one browser to do it. So any progressive solution starts, to me, with the most basic use case and interface. Look at Google. You turn off JavaScript. JavaScript might not be available because of some proxy reason in a hotel or something. It's still a search box. You can type something in there, you hit a submit button, you get results back. You as the end user get the functionality. Google as the provider gets their business model because they show ads on every search result page. That's how Google gets money. So everybody is happy. If JavaScript has loaded and is fully available, then you get your autocomplete and you get your image displays and all the cool stuff. But the main use case has always been to be there. And this was a lot of people forget when they talk about progressive web apps. They just build an empty shell that without JavaScript doesn't do anything at all. And that's not an app. That's basically solving your problem on behalf of the user. It's improved experience in advanced environments. If you have the newest, coolest Chromium on an Android device that supports the newest, coolest Android, you get some great functionality in a PWA. If you have it on an Internet Explorer 9 or 11, you still have something. You still have an information flow. You still have something to do. There might even be offline functionality that is not available because Service Worker is not supported in that old browser, but it's up to you to implement that in other ways with like local storage solutions or Firebase or whatever you want to use. And it's improved experience with subsequent visits. The more I get back to the thing, the better it gets. The first time I go there, I get an immediate load. The second time, it's actually offline already. And I don't need to do anything extra with that. I don't need to say like, okay, I now need to pay $15 to get it offline. The more we actually get access to people's computers and mobile phones, the more we should give them as a reward that they came to our products. And to a degree, the web has always been a progressive environment. It has always been like that. I loaded something, and then later on I had it on my machine and did something. A lot of times that was just accidental. But I remember the first time I used the internet was with a 56K or even a fax modem or something like that. And it cost me by the minute, like it does in Canada still, as far as I know, or the data traffic here. And I was just surfing the web, clicking quickly around, and then I went offline, and then I went through the cache of the browser to get all the images that I loaded, because it took too long on my old computer to right-click and save them. This is what I did in the first time, and this is what a lot of people on a 2G connection in a country that has a positive GDP still have to do. Bruce Lawson from ex-Opera gives a lot of talks lately about, he travels the world right now seeing what connectivity is like in other countries and what people are using. Very insightful stuff. We have forgotten, though, that the web is a progressive environment, and we just expect everybody to have the same environments and the same functionality as we have, and we expect the web to be high fidelity, really cool. Why is that not a 4K background image? These kind of things. We just expect everybody to work like us, and we have to understand that as a market, we're an elite market. We're like not many people out there, and we're very, very lucky. I'm going to come back to doing my other talk. Every time I go back on Christmas and see my family, I feel almost embarrassed about how well we do in IT and how well I do, although I don't know what people listen to me. We're building on great hardware with fast connections. This thing is nuts. My Surface Book is nuts. I mean, I got so many old computers at home that other people would basically give an arm for so they can do something. I had an old desktop machine at home that I hadn't started in ages, and when I moved from my one flat to another, I turned it on the other day, and it was like Phoenix was there as the browser, the pre-Firefox browser. This is how old that thing was. And I was like, okay, what do I do with it? I can't recycle it. Nobody on eBay is going to pay money for it. I put it on Gumtree in England, and I got 150 emails from people in London. Great, my son needs to do his homework. He doesn't have any place to write something with Word. Can I pick that computer up? I didn't think in London that exists, but it does. We are not the people that use the web and use our products. Developer convenience and fast turnaround trumps often end-user experience. We get super excited about making ourselves more effective and faster, and if the end-user needs to have JavaScript enabled, if the end-user needs to have a certain mobile phone, that's their problem. And I think that's not really what we should be doing, considering that if we need to grow outside of our own echo chamber and grow in markets where we're not yet. So when the mobile factor became the main use of the web showed its issues. Out of a sudden, the web was not the thing that people want to use. First of all, it's a pain to type in a URL on a mobile phone. It's not fun to go from a website to website by typing things in. Then most interfaces were too small. The links were so close together that with a fat finger, you always clicked both of them. Unreliable browser support for accessing mobile hardware was a really big issue. Like at the beginning, it was only iOS stuff, it was only Safari. Then Firefox, with Firefox OS, wrote a lot of specifications, did a lot of testing, and we got more and more access to the hardware. But at the beginning, we just could not compete because it was impossible to take a picture from a browser, for example. And of course, the biggest problem was it doesn't work offline. Every time I talked about HTML5 applications to people, they're like, well, it needs to work offline, so duh. And most of them worked offline with terrible solutions like app cache and other things, but we were able to write HTML that worked offline already. But it had that stigma. People were just seeing it like, I'm not online, I cannot use the thing, then it's useless to me. And a lot of times people then use native apps that also need to be online, but they don't complain about it because they had a splash screen that they waited for 20 seconds to see something. It feels like a burden to support all the possible environments users have. When I, as an old man of the web, I know people use all kind of browsers. I cannot control that. I cannot tell people to use a certain browser. But as an engineer that just comes on the market, it feels weird to have to think about environments that you can't even duplicate, that you don't even know or never seen. But that's what the web is like. So native apps promised to solve all the issues that web had. They told us like, okay, that's not the issue, offline works and it's great because everybody has an iPhone and everybody wants to have your applications and these kind of things. That's why we started in HTML5 to mimic the native applications. They told us they work offline, they give you access to the hardware, and they give you control over what the user can do. And all of them came packaged. All of them came at like, you have to go to a store, you have to download, install the whole thing, and then you have access to the hardware and you do cool stuff. And that's what we did with HTML5 applications. So we mimicked what native applications did. And I think that was a massive mistake. We didn't understand that the technology of the web is not meant to be installed. It's not meant to come from a source that is not a link. It's not meant to actually be hard to upgrade and be upgraded in a whole piecemeal fashion rather than bit by bit. Native apps are a bespoke solution for a closed environment, and that will always, in the first run, be better than anybody else. A tailored suit for me is great for me, but my brother can't wear it. And I can't afford it most of the time. But it's great that you work something and it's like, look, it works in all the environment that I control. Well, duh. You control everything. If it doesn't work, then you would have really failed. If a web application looks different from browser to browser, yes, this is what it's meant to do. This is not a failure. This is actually what the web is meant to do. Things should not look the same everywhere. If you've done that, you made a mistake. Or you send a JPEG out and hope that people don't realize it's not interactive. Native applications have their own issues, though. The app revolution, to me, is not something worth mimicking. And I talked about that for a long time. I talked about it at TEDx conferences and all kind of stuff. And now I'm going to give you lots and lots of numbers how native apps are actually failing and what we need to do to work around that issue. Native apps as a form factor, to me, have failed and are only kept alive by VC injections and hype. Everybody needs to have an app, like everybody needed to have a Flash tunnel, like everybody needed to have a content management system, like everybody needed to have whatever it was before when we sent floppy disks out to people. If you look at the numbers, though, users spend 80% of their time using just 5 apps. And I can see that myself. I'm using Gmail for emails, I'm using Facebook, I'm using Instagram because my partner likes Instagram and people are there. And I maybe use a game that I discard after 2 weeks because I think it's too hard. And then I basically use WhatsApp to talk to my team. This is where I spend 80% of my time. And it's all things about that I've sending messages to each other that are not like going through the one app. There's apps that I like using. My expense app on the desktop is much easier than the expense website I used to have, but that's because it was a 2003 SharePoint website, which is basically cruelty to people to use. 80% of users who download an app fail to become active users. They try it and then they basically discard it and let it rot and get deleted. I challenge all of you to take your phone out and look at all the apps. And I have a Huawei Honor. It actually shows me which apps I haven't used for a long time. I think the icon should start rusting and falling apart when you don't use them and then just vanish. That'd be great. Of the 1.5 million apps in the Google Play Store, only a few thousand sustain meaningful traffic. And that's not even money. That's just meaningful traffic, which means probably the people have to pay for that traffic. So you have to get that money in somehow. That's why we get very brutal in our advertising and in our upselling, like, oh, you're really bad at the game? Pay $5, then you're better at that game kind of thing. 94% of app revenue comes from 1% of the publishers. So here's your business model if you say, like, I'm going to be the app that actually kills WhatsApp. Good luck with that. It's like, and the publishers are Google, Facebook. This is where people actually use their stuff. How many times do you use Maps a day? How many times do you use MapQuest.com? Nobody ever anymore. or Nokia Maps or whatever, what else was out there. 60% of the apps in the Google Play App Store have never been downloaded. That is amazing. But then again, if you look at the App Store and you look for something and you find 600 apps that are not the thing that you were looking for, it's not surprising. My brother is a budding comic artist, and I bought him a tablet, so I wanted to find him a painting app. The only one I found was Autodesk. Everything else was like, paint this cat, paint this dog, paint this elephant. Something I can write in 5 minutes in HTML and Canvas, but no, it was a native app with 50 meg, and probably malware or whatever was in there. So the average user downloads less than 3 apps per month, and half of the US smartphone users download 0 apps per month because we're busy in Facebook talking to other people about politics or whatever we are actually excited about, sports. Users try out a lot of apps, but decide which ones they want to stop using within the first 3 to 7 days. So you got 3 days to get people excited about your app. And how do you get people excited about your app? Constant updates, changes in the interface, cool new stuff coming in. How hard it is in a native app to update it? Really hard, because you have to download the new version the whole time. Unless you have just an iframe in there and you load some web content which is insecure and not really a good idea. So the average app loses the entire user base within a few months. So you got a few months to make as much money as possible, and then you have to go again and get the next one. Remember Angry Birds? Remember Where's My Water? Remember all these apps that we all needed to... Pokemon Go is really dipping now as well. We always got these hype things, and then they're gone really quickly. Native app install friction blocks 74% of your potential customers, and that is the biggest problem of native apps. Hey, you want my thing? Go to the App Store, log in, give me your credit card details, a pint of blood and your firstborn. Download these 250 megs so you can actually see a cat dancing on the screen, and hopefully you're on a fast connection so it didn't take ages to do that. There's numbers of like, was it like 1,000 users, 226 are the one at the end of it that went through all these different steps, and you lost a lot of them in between. And even the money isn't what we've been promised. Like, everybody's like, oh, you got to make money with a native app. You can't make money with the web. I agree. We're really bad at making money with the web. We bred a whole generation of people who think everything is free on the web, and if you show ads, I block them, and I wonder why things get more cruel and brutal. But if you look at the number that comes from that, there's a pricing race to the bottom, 99 cents. Nobody has an app or hardly anybody has an app successful on the Play Store that's like $20. Whereas like $20 for a CD game back then, or for a CD even, we're totally okay to pay that. But everything needs to be 99p, and then out of a sudden it becomes expensive the more we use it. Lock-in into the store with its own rules and restrictions is another problem. Your app might be taken away from Apple. And they have all the right to do that because it's their store. If it doesn't play by their rules. I remember Amnesty International had a game where you simulated a sweatshop, and Apple didn't like that, so you basically took it off. And Amnesty International was like, hey, this is an important political issue. No. Revenue share with the store OS provider. So you use their infrastructure and you pay money for it. So the money that doesn't come in, you actually have to share with others as well. So you have to get a lot of information in there. That's why it's always been people's like, oh, VC funds $100 million before I start writing an app. And I'm like, that's stupid. I mean, I can do it for $300. But then you see, this is where all the money goes. Updates are hard and maybe delayed by store rules. Sometimes you have to wait 2 to 3 weeks for your app to get updated, and that's not fun for the end user. So it's time to rethink the concept of apps and their distribution outside of stores, and this is what progressive web apps are actually about. It's frictionless installs and updates. That's what we want to have. Just click something and it's already installed by using it. Why did I download these 2 meg of your website to have to download it again next time? That functionality should be on my device, and the browser cache is not reliable. That's why we needed caches that are controllable. Small initial payload, make the thing as fast as possible, because there may be people on a bad connection that just want to see what it's like and then get the functionality later on. Form factor supporting content and interfaces. Don't give people links that look like buttons and are this big. Give them fat things. People have fat fingers. People are on the go or on a plane and need to interface with these things. Offline flaky connection support. Do not trust connections. They may tell you I'm fast, but then you have to go through another system to log in. And using the power of the device. We've got good devices. Even the smallest devices have okay storage. Like storage space is not that expensive. So use the cache, use what the device has. Don't ask people to actually allow your app access to the camera. Just call to the operating system and get the camera from there. Just do an image upload. That will get people to use the camera app they're already using to take the picture rather than you implementing another one. So progressive web apps solve these issues by merging the best of the web and the best of native environments. And it's weird after I just poo-pooed native environments, but there are things that the web could not do that native environments could do. The distribution model is the link, and how cool is that? I can send you a link in email, I can send you a link in messaging, I can send you a link in an envelope in the mail if you want to, that you can type in. But you don't need to actually log into a marketplace. You don't need to give your credit card information. You don't need to have a credit card. I just came back from New York, where I work with a team that brings kids from poor neighborhoods into IT, and most of them can't even use something like Udacity because it asks you for a credit card, even if the courses are free. People don't have credit cards, so you need to get somehow them to download your stuff. The technology stack is web standards that progressed. We're not as bad as we used to be when the first iPhone came out. Almost every browser now supports all the things that you need to do on a mobile device. And on desktop, you've got wonderful things like drag and drop. You've got like camera access. You've got access to biometric data even. There's so many good things. Look at the new web standards out there and use them. Don't wait for them to be perfect, because they will never be, because the web is progressive. The first step is to harden your servers by moving away from HTTP to more secure protocols. That's a generally good idea. I mean, Xfinity in America injects JavaScript into any website if it's HTTPS. And that's every user in America. Make your stuff HTTPS, then we can give you, as browsers, more access to the hardware that you had before. The second step is providing an app manifest. That tells me your website is not a website, but it's actually an app. That's a very simple JSON file that tells me, like, what's the name of your app, what are the icons, what are the things that it needs to access, what is the splash screen, and so on and so forth. The app manifest describes the document as an app. It defines the look and feel, if it's full screen, colors, the screen orientation. It gives you access to platform-specific functionality. Before we know the thing is an app, we cannot allow a website to access the camera or the location or these kind of things, because it might be some injected thing from a website that you just looked at on the web. Standardized version of older similar approaches. There have been lots of manifests. There's been the Firefox OS manifest, Samsung had something, Apple had something, everybody came up with a manifest. This is the W3C approved one now that everybody works together on. The big breakthrough, though, is Service Worker. Service Worker intercepts fetch events and responds with a cache. So you have more or less an HTTP proxy in JavaScript. So you can do everything with the HTTP before it shows up on the site. You can convert images, you can package things, you can use offline functionality, you can do everything that an HTTP request can do, but in JavaScript without leaving the page. And that's pretty amazing, because you do it in a different thread than the main thread as well, so it doesn't even slow down your interface. You intercept push events as well, you intercept sync and periodic events. That allows you to update your application. That allows you to keep your application up to date without asking the user to re-download the whole thing. It allows you for offline functionality by having named caches and defining all the things that you want to cache, and by purging the things that you don't want to have cached anymore, so you have full control over the cache that you didn't have before in the browser. And push notifications, which is the biggest thing for user re-engagement. So rather than having to go to the website, the application, restart it, load something again, I just get like, hey, you got 5 new messages, do you want to answer them? You don't even need to open the app, you can do it directly in the notification bar of your device. And background syncing for updating the application itself. Push notifications are the biggest thing when it comes to engagement of users, and people will abuse this. So we have to make a very, very stand as developers not to build just push notifications for the sake of it. We don't want them to be the new pop-ups. So the great things are happening here. It's Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, Apple, Samsung all take part in this in bigger or larger roles. And the benefit of that for you is you can take what you built on the web right now and you can turn it into a PWA, not immediately. Think about redesigning it and slimming it down before you actually turn it into a PWA. It's a great opportunity for you, but there is a great outlook of what your thing can do. The web's coming back big time. And that's because native is not, you saw the numbers, it's really not, and these were not one resource, these were several resources. People realize, I myself don't want to download new apps all the time. When I get home on wireless, it says me 50 apps want to get updated. I never use them, so I just delete them by now. Time to brush up what you have and slim it down. Those 2.2 megs are too much. Make sure that the first thing loads fast, and then subsequently you can download things and put them on the machine so the user will never have to load them again. It means you will reach lots of new users on badly connected devices without locking them out. And you make your current products work more reliably for everybody. Everybody who turned their product into a PWA made their original users much happier as well. Forbes.com, Twitter is now a PWA, the Washington Post. There's lots and lots of cases on Google's site that shows you what benefits are there. This is proper web technology. You don't need to build a PWA. You can take part of your current website and turn that into installable PWA. That's what weather.com did. Weather.com, the international site, is a PWA. The American one isn't yet, because it's, I don't know, traditional old website with lots of people poking at moving parts. They didn't want to change it completely, but they tried it with the European part. They're very successful, so they're going to move it to the other one as well. Search engines can find your solutions and index them. Bing started doing that. We're scouring the web for web manifests and then show them in the results as apps, not as normal websites, and say, like, this thing will work offline if you click it here and you actually use it. And that's a pretty powerful thing to do, and Google will do that as well because they want to ingest it into their marketplaces. As with any web technology, a lot can be automated. There's pwabuilder.com if you want to take a look at that. That allows you to just give a URL and it creates the manifest for you. So that way you can learn to get started. But read about the manifest yourself. It's not that hard to do. Don't waste more time on duplicating efforts in closed environments. I'm done with saying, like, oh, you're on Android, you have to wait for half a year to get this thing. The web is here. I don't want to wait anymore. I'm happy to give you money if I can use the thing, but I don't want to buy another $900 phone before I can actually reach it. So when there's a web for you out there that keeps you in control as developers, as publishers, and now we have the benefits of having the functionality that we can access the hardware, that we can create really exciting app experiences that have a link as the distribution model. So take a look at that, and that's all I had. So thanks very much.